So now we're in Genesis chapter 9. This is God's covenant with Noah is the heading of this chapter. God blessed Noah and his sons, and he told them, multiply and fill the earth. So, God blesses Noah and his sons. We've seen a pattern of this before when God brings life just to the animals that he's forming. He actually blesses them and says, go forth and multiply, to the fish, right, to the other animals, to humans. And this is where he's doing this again. I've established this kind of restart here. God blessed Noah and his sons, and he told them, so he's still speaking, multiply and fill the earth. He gives this command. Just as he said, hey, the animals are going to do that in chapter 8. Let them be free, let them go free, let them multiply, fill the earth. Cool, that's their purpose, which was stated at the very beginning of Genesis. Now here you go. Multiply and fill the earth. That's what I want you to do as well, because all life is now going to spring from you. Okay? All the wild animals, large and small, and all the birds and the fish will be afraid of you. Now this is interesting to note. Before, the relationship that we see that God has established between man and animal is that animals are man's helpers, right? And they are, yeah, they're just man's helpers, and man is to have dominion over them, to rule over them. But this is where we actually see all the animals, large and small, the birds and the fish, will be afraid of you. So God's speaking this, so it is so. I have placed them in your power. Again, he's saying, I want you to remember you have power over them. They're afraid of you. All right. 3, I have given them to you for food, just as I have given you grain and vegetables. So here you have this establishment of like, cool, I've given them to you for food. So now it's clear as day, hey, go ahead, you can eat meat. That's fine. Just as I've given you grain and vegetables. You got all of this to eat now. You want to eat the animals? That's fine. You have power over them. They're afraid of you. Now they're afraid of you because you're going to start eating them as well. If you weren't doing that before, which we see that they clearly were in certain cases. I have given them to you for food, just as I have given you grain and vegetables. And notice, this is again that pattern where God's saying, I've blessed you, here's your purpose. Okay, here's what I want you to do. I'm commanding you to go forth, fill the earth, multiply, okay, subdue creation, basically, subdue animals. And I have given you. He's saying that again. I have given you this. That's something that he did with Adam and Eve right afterwards. He's like, I want you to see that I have given you this for food and these for this purpose. Like he's speaking purpose and he's saying, I have given. So that's interesting that that pattern has popped up too. Just as I have given you grain and vegetables. But, and here's the but, at verse 4, you must never eat animals that still have their lifeblood in them. Cool. I know that deer looks delicious, but you need to kill it. Don't just go hopping on its back and don't eat like the beast would eat other beasts. Murder is forbidden at verse 5. Ooh, okay. So you see him making a very big establishment here. Murder is forbidden. That's, you know, this sin that happened with the first children there. So he's establishing, hey, by the way, murder is bad. I don't know if you guys know the story of Cain and Abel, Noah and his children, because you don't have a Bible at this point to kind of record this. I don't know how much is passed on generationally, but he's just being very clear here. Don't eat animals that still have their lifeblood in them. Murder is forbidden. Don't do it. It's bad. Okay, that's not pleasing to me. Animals that kill people must die, and any person who murders must be killed. Ooh, so animals that kill people must die. So if an animal goes mad or gets rabies or whatever, you got to kill that animal. Cool, so just putting basic wisdom into play there, but also a judgment. Like, hey, if an animal kills a person, it's got to die. Any person who murders must be killed. So if we're saying, I don't know. This is interesting because it makes me wonder about the definition of murder in this case. As an aside, the reason I'm asking that is like, is it murder if you're killing an animal? You can eat the animals, but do you have to wait for them to die of natural causes? That's just a little side thing. You must not eat meat that has its lifeblood still in it. And for your lifeblood, I will surely demand an accounting. I will demand an accounting from every animal and from each man, too. I will demand an accounting for the life of his fellow man. Okay, so, yeah, we're just saying murder is killing a person, not necessarily an animal in the translations that I'm looking for here. But there is this accountability that's given into this, and this justice is what you're seeing. Like, basically, there's an account. You're being held accountable for this. Life is precious. To take a life, I will take your life. That's what I'm sentencing you to. At verse 6, yes, you must execute anyone who murders another person. For to kill a person is to kill a living being made in God's image. So he establishes why this is a sin right there. To kill a person is to kill a living being made in God's image. Okay? You were made in my image. Please remember that. This is a reinforcement that people are made in my image. And he's letting them in on that in case they didn't know. Now it's perfectly clear. Murder is bad. It's also bad because you're sinning against me. You're killing someone that I have made in my image. And to dishonor something that is supposed to glorify me and bear my image is to dishonor me. Yeah, oh my goodness. Now you must have many children and repopulate the earth. Yes, multiply and fill the earth. So he's like, hey, I'm blessing you, multiply and fill the earth. And then he ends this little section with, yes, go multiply, have many children, repopulate the earth, okay? I want more people made in my image, to be image bearers of mine, and respect that life. Sandwiched in between that is this, hey, murder is bad, respect all life, especially human life, because you are image bearers of me. Control these animals. They're going to be afraid of you, okay, and you can eat of them, just don't eat it with the lifeblood in there, all right? Murder is not okay. Interesting that he sandwiches that way. At verse 8, then God told Noah and his sons, I am making a covenant with you and your descendants. So he is saying right now, I am making this covenant with you and with the animals you brought with you, all these birds and livestock and wild animals. Saying, I'm making a covenant with you, but I'm making a covenant with all of life. Interesting. Verse 11, I solemnly promise never to send another flood to kill all living creatures and destroy the earth. So God makes this promise. Wow. And the first time you see covenant used as a word, at least in this translation, yeah. Now, interesting here, in the NIV translation, it says, verse 9, I now establish my covenant with you and with your descendants after you, and with every living creature that was with you. The birds, the livestock, the wild animals, all those that came out of the ark with you, every living creature on earth. So every living creature on earth, I'm making this promise to you. So you and your descendants is what it said in New Living Translation. So we'll hop back to this. So I solemnly promise never to send another flood to kill all living creatures, destroy the earth. Verse 12, and God said, I am giving you a sign as evidence of my eternal covenant with you and all living creatures. So notice here the way that this is recorded. He's saying it to them, but he's also recording this here for you and I. This is a covenant that I'm making with you and all of your descendants, okay? This is an eternal covenant with all living creatures. I'm not going to do that. I'm also going to have a sign as evidence of this eternal covenant. Nothing that is agreed upon is valid without signatures. So there's this signature, there's this signing, there's this point of official qualification, I guess. Yeah, that's really interesting. I'm giving you a sign. I have placed my rainbow in the clouds. It is the sign of my permanent promise to you and to all the earth. So I'm placing a rainbow in the clouds. This is going to be a sign of my permanent promise to you and all of the earth, all living things, all of your descendants, you and me right now. That's crazy. When I send clouds over the earth, the rainbow will be seen in the clouds, and I will remember my covenant with you and with everything that lives. Not that God forgets. God has remembered everything. Everything has happened just as he has said. He remembered Noah and his faithfulness, and he's going to remember this. Not that God would forget, but in case he did, he's got this, so it's going to remind you, and it'll remind him, okay, that when I see this, I will remember my covenant with you and with everything that lives. Never again will there be a flood that will destroy all life. When I see the rainbow in the clouds, I will remember the eternal covenant between God and every living creature on the earth. In case I could have forgotten, I will always remember this. So again, God speaks this, and so it is so. Is just the pattern that we've seen. So I'm saying that this is still in place and trying to tie it back to what we know of God right now. 17, then God said to Noah, yes, this is the sign of my covenant with all creatures of the earth. All right, so he just is very clear in establishing all of that. Now you get to Noah's sons at verse 18. Shem, Ham, and Japheth, the three sons of Noah, survived the flood with their father, this righteous man. These three sons, okay? Ham is the ancestor of the Canaanites. This is put in parentheses. We have to assume, since we don't know the rest of the Bible, that will be significant. This might have been significant to someone of the day reading this, but for you and me, like, just at a face value, it's like, I don't know who the Canaanites are, but I know that Ham is the ancestor of them, so if and when they pop up later, I'll know he's an ancestor of the Canaanites. There you go. From these three sons of Noah came all the people now scattered across the earth. From these three sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and Ham being the ancestor of the Canaanites. Okay, so verse 20. After the flood, Noah became a farmer and planted a vineyard. So after the flood, and after God's faithful deliverance of this and saving him and his family and these sons, which will produce all of the people that are now scattered across the earth, Noah becomes a farmer. He plants a vineyard. One day, verse 21, he became drunk on some wine he had made and lay naked in his tent. We've all done that, right? I mean, who hasn't gotten a little too drunk and then just gone and laid naked in their tent? Sorry. So Noah, this righteous man who has a close relationship with God, who God has delivered through this massive flood, and who he's placed this new beginning on, who had found favor with the Lord after the flood, Noah becomes a farmer, plants this vineyard, and then he gets too drunk and he lays naked in his tent. Ham, the father of Canaan, again you have that reference to the Canaanites, saw that his father was naked, so he sees this and went outside and told his brothers. Okay. Shem and Japheth took a robe, held it over their shoulders, walked backward into the tent, and covered their father's naked body. Now, you have three sons here. One of them sees it, and he's like, oh, I gotta go tell my brothers, all right? And he goes out there and tells them. I'm reading into that. I guess it doesn't say that that was his attitude. I should not do that. He went outside and he told his brothers. So he sees it, and instead of doing anything about it, I guess is what we should read, he goes out and he tells his brothers. He could have just kept that shameful thing that he had witnessed of his father there, and covered that and tried to respect that and then not told anyone. But instead he goes out and tells his brothers. So that's where kind of that thought I believe, stems from. So you see them responding when they are told. They take a robe, they, held it over their shoulders, they're walking backwards so that they do not witness this, and then they cover their father's naked body. This is the second time that we've really seen a pattern of nakedness being covered, by the way. Okay. As they did this, they looked the other way, so they wouldn't see him naked. All right, so they're not dishonoring their father here. They're covering him, and they looked the other way, so they wouldn't see him naked. 24. When Noah woke from his drunken stupor, he learned what Ham, his youngest son, had done. He learned that Ham just saw him, and then instead of covering him and trying to look away so as not to see him, not to continue to see that, you saw what happened there. His youngest son had done. Then he cursed the descendants of Canaan, the son of Ham. Okay. A curse on the Canaanites. May they be the lowest of servants to the descendants of Shem and Japheth. Now, the timing of this statement and him calling Canaanites there, this going back to this phrase in parentheses earlier where it says Ham is the ancestor of the Canaanites, makes me wonder, okay, they have gone and this is sometime after the flood. This is enough that they have definitely procreated, I will venture to say right now, at face value. Okay, good. So he then curses the descendants of Canaan, the son of Ham. I assume this at face value because, you don't just suddenly call all of the descendants that have not been, these future descendants, a certain title. Why wouldn't you call them like Hammonites? You know what I mean? Or Hamanites, I don't know what you would call them. But the point is he says, a curse on the Canaanites. May they be the lowest of servants to the descendants of Shem and Japheth. Whether they already existed or whether they're just future descendants, which again, I think that this is saying some time has passed and clearly you've got this, which is possible because Noah is the last of these old people, right? If the average age was 900, he's 600 at the end, 601, 602 at the end of this flood, somewhere around there. And then if your average lifespan is 900, you've got 300 years to have these descendants popping out. So I'll just go with that. I don't know. But either way, he curses the descendants of Ham. It says, they're going to be the lowest of servants to the descendants of your brothers. And then Noah said, may Shem be blessed by the Lord my God, and may Canaan be his servant. So he's saying, I'm speaking a blessing unto them. Okay? May God enlarge the territory of Japheth, and may he share the prosperity of Shem, and let Canaan be his servant. So, curse on you, Ham, and all your descendants, but I'm speaking blessings, and I'm praying blessings of the Lord my God for them to just increase their territory, and your descendants, Ham, are going to be basically servants to them. So they're going to have prosperity, they're going to share in these blessings, and your descendants will be beneath them. They will be servants. Noah lived another 350 years, after the flood. He was 950 years old when he died. So, a lot of interesting things happening here. I say interesting so much when I'm reading the Bible, and I'm sorry. Well, I'm not sorry, but I'm sorry you have to hear it. Hard to reconcile some of this, really, on an immediate face value read. But what you see is that God establishes a covenant. You see a pattern of him saying, cool, I'm speaking this blessing into you, giving you a command. He's also establishing, life is valuable. Humans are made in my image, and they bear my image, okay? So they are made to glorify me and honor me, and they bear my image, and that life is precious. Don't murder them. If you do, you are held accountable. Also, hold animals accountable if they harm. And animals are fine to eat, just don't eat with lifeblood in them. So he's establishing a covenant here with, I'm never going to do this again, and I want you to know that, and I'm making a promise, and here's a sign, and I'm going to remember, and I want all of you to remember. But also this command of hey, don't murder. And then you have this immediate, it reads immediately after, but again, I'm speculating on how long. It's so hard with the way that this is written for us to discern like the amount of time that has passed, unless it's very specific on it. And I think that that's probably why it seems harder, because you have like for 40 days and for 40 nights, and then after 7 months, and you've got these very specific periods of time. But then you have like earlier where it's like a day happens in the beginning of Genesis, but a day happens, and like all of these things that would normally take seasons or years or whatever to happen suddenly happen in that day. It makes you question the length of a day at that time. Here you have this loose idea of, because Ham dishonored his father, who had really dishonored himself. I mean, he became drunk and he was laying naked in the tent. They realize that it's bad. You shouldn't see your father naked. You need to honor your father. So that's clearly kind of implied in that point, even though it's not something that God has necessarily commanded yet. The two brothers that did not dishonor their father and that did look away so that he could be covered, and who physically covered him in his nakedness, they are blessed by him. He says, I'm speaking a blessing over you as a father, and a curse on you, Ham. You were dishonorable. You were not pleasing to me. And then he lives another 350 years after the flood, Noah does, and he's 950 years old when he died. So whether this is current time descendants of Ham or whether they're the future ones, we know that they are cursed and destined to be, because God has spoken it through Noah at that point, since it's recorded this way. That's how I'm reading that they're going to be servants. So we'll see if, I guess is what I should say, we will see if this is God speaking through this righteous man, Noah, and if it is so, or if this is just something that he prayed. May the Lord God do this. I'm praying for that. That doesn't mean that I command God. But we're going to see what happens with these descendants and see how that plays out, because that could be very significant. So again, hope you're enjoying this face value read through, where we're trying not to look ahead into things that we might have heard or known or understood before, and see this with fresh perspective. That's why I keep having these little asides as we're going, well, you see this before, I'm only tying to what has come before or what I have personally experienced, and hopefully you're doing the same. And we'll pick up at chapter 10 next time. See you then.